Hello everybody, I am Brewing and this is going to be my beginner's guide to using Android 17's Rekka. This video will be split into 4 different sections. Number 1 will be the inputs of the Rekka, how to use each action. Number 2 will be the attributes of the Rekka. Number 3 will be a section dedicated to the barrier specifically. Then number 4 will be some general usage tips. I'm going to have timestamps in the description for each section, so if you want to look for a specific thing, go there. So to get started with the Rekka, you do quarter circle forward, M, L, or H for forward Rekka, and you can do quarter circle backwards, L, M, or H for backstep Rekka. After this, if you mash L or mash M, 17 will always do a specific set of Rekka inputs, so he will always go mid, high, then low if you mash L or M. So here's me mashing L. You see I go mid, high, then low every single time I mash. Same thing applies to if you mash medium. So here's me mashing medium. And specifically for M and H Rekkas, if you hold the button, 17 will do an empty dash. This also applies to backstep Rekkas. So in order to do the specific hits of the Rekka out of order, you go Rekka. Then after the first hit of Rekka, you can do 5L or 5M for mid. Looks like a gut punch. You can do 2L or 2M for a low sweep. And then you can do 6L or M for an overhead. So here's M and here's light version. You can do 2S for charging power blitz, and if you already have power blitz, you can do 2S and it will fire a power blitz. You can hold 5S for barrier, for regular barrier, excuse me. Do 4S, so that's backwards S, for back wall jump, and forward S or 6S for forwards wall jump. Then 5H for EX barrier, and then if you push 5H again after the barrier, 17 will do a barrier blast. An important thing to note is that this does not take 2 EX bars. And if you do 4L or M, you will do a fake overhead empty hop. So here is L version and here is M version. An important thing to note is that the forward Rekka and the backstep Rekka both count as 2 separate special moves, which means after you do one Rekka, so here am I doing forward Rekka, you can special cancel into the second version of Rekka. So if I start with backstep Rekka, I can go through the whole Rekka, then I can special cancel at the end to forward Rekka. So you can only do each one of these actions once per Rekka. So if you do a low at the beginning of your Rekka, you cannot do another low after this low. Unless you special cancel into the second Rekka. So here, I start off with forward Rekka and I do a low immediately. Then if I special cancel into the next Rekka, I can do a low again. But you can't do the same action twice in the same Rekka sequence. And I say that, but it's also important to know that you cannot do every single Rekka action in one sequence. There are ender Rekka actions, as I'll call them. So, barrier is an ender. 2S, both charge and release, is an ender. You can see you cannot do any more Rekka actions afterwards. S barrier, so regular barrier, is an ender. You can see I'm mashing, you cannot do any actions afterwards. And then wall jump is an ender. And then if H barrier blast is blocked or whiffed, it is an ender. So here I do H barrier and I cannot do anything afterwards. Same thing if I block or Gohan blocks it. But if you hit H barrier, if you hit them, then you can continue the Rekka. But this isn't really recommended because you can combo off it like this. It causes a wall bounce, so you can combo off it like so. So now that we know about this little rule about the Rekka, This will make explaining the air Rekka much easier since they are a little bit wonky. So as you can see, if I do air Rekka, light or medium or heavy, 17 starts off with the overhead. He does not do this chin check Rekka starter in the air. He goes straight to the overhead. And this counts as an overhead action. So if you hit somebody with the Rekka, with this overhead, you cannot use the overhead again in the same Rekka. So here, I'll hit Gohan with the H overhead Rekka. And you can see I'm trying to input forward light, but I cannot do light Rekka or the light overhead again because 17 did the overhead while he was in the air. But the air Rekka is technically a different special move from the ground Rekka, which means after air Rekka, you can do the Rekka hits, then you can special cancel into ground Rekka. And the same thing applies for the backwards air Rekka, but a little bit differently. So you can see here, the back air Rekka is actually the fake overhead, but it's functionally a fast fall, but it counts as the fake overhead, which means you cannot do the fake overhead again. So I'm inputting backwards light here, and I can't do the overhead, the fake overhead. But again, since this is technically a different special move from the ground Rekka, if you do manage to hit somebody with the continuation of this air Rekka on the ground, you can special cancel into ground Rekka and do a fake overhead again if you want to. So special cancel, and now you can do fake overhead again. It's a little confusing, but basically what you need to know is if you do air Rekka, forward air Rekka, you cannot do overhead again, so don't try. And if you do air back Rekka, you cannot do backstep, or you cannot do the fake overhead again in the same Rekka unless you special cancel. Now it's time to move on to the attributes of the Rekka, or the most important attributes of the Rekka, I think, for beginners to know. So it's important to note that the first hit of the Rekka, so this chin check, is actually an anti-air. So light and medium Rekka starters, light and medium Rekka starters are frame 4 overheads, and EX Rekka is a frame 1 overhead. So that means if someone super dishes at you, or if they do some other air action, like so, this isn't overhead. You saw the blue circles there. Just show it again, just in case. You saw the blue circles there. That is a true overhead. And H Rekka, like I said, is a frame 1. So you saw the blue circles there. Frame 1. So next let's go into frame data. So you should know, if you're going to play as 17 or against 17, that all of 17's hits of the Rekka, all of these are unsafe on block. So if you have Trunks set to guard all, you'll see the starter hit is minus 23, the low sweep minus 11, gut punch minus 9, and the overhead is minus 12. So none of these are safe for you to end your Rekka with. You can't try to do this and then just end it there, because you're going to get punished. The opponent knows about the frame data. Power Blitz charge is minus 28, so if you're going to use this in a block string, you have to make sure that your assist has enough hits, or has enough block stun, to cover that end lag. It's not all bad though, since you can use Power Blitz release, and this will have a +7 situation on block. So in the corner, this is really powerful. So you can set up something like this, go into a block string, and then end with Power Blitz charge, and then you have enough frames there, frame advantage, since they're +7. You can go into medium elbow here, and that'll catch anything they do if they're not blocking. Like that. So that's only in the corner. In the mid-screen, it's not too useful mid-screen, since they're really far away, but maybe you can catch them with 17's 3H sweep. And for the frame data on the overhead, the elbow here, this overhead is completely reactable at all times. It's 25 frame startup, so this is not a mix, anybody can see this coming. You should not be getting hit by this offline. Online, you can definitely catch some people off guard with it, but offline, you're definitely not going to catch people with it unless you have hardcore conditioned them and you're just really tricky with the fake overhead as well. That being said, even if they can react to the overhead, you actually cannot 2H it. So if someone tries to 2H it, they get counter hit, like so. But you can jab it, so if you're really woke, you can jab it and start a full combo from there. You can also reflect it, like so, and you can backdash away from it. Like so. So the overhead is not that good, honestly. I'd recommend against using it too often. You can very much abuse it against people who don't know how to fight against 17. But for people who are awake at the wheel, I don't recommend it. The medium versions of gut punch, overhead, and fake overhead, so this, and this, the medium versions are actually a little bit different from the light versions. The sweep, this is pretty much the same for medium and light. As far as I know, there's no difference. So I recommend pretty much always doing the light sweep since it's faster. But for the rest of them, there are definitely some use cases. So when you're staggering somebody with the Rekka, you can actually use medium gut punch because this is a medium starter. None of the other hits of the Rekka are medium starters, so if you catch somebody with this, you can actually get a TOD off it, mid-screen, with 0 bar, which I'll show here. As for the medium overhead and medium fake overhead, they both semi-track to the opponent. So here am I doing light overhead. It goes a set distance every time. This is me doing medium overhead. You can see I travel way further. Same thing applies for the fake overhead. So here's me doing light fake overhead. I do a little hop forward. And here's me doing medium fake overhead. Whoops. Medium fake overhead. So you see 17 just jumps straight to the opponent. A little note about the backstep Rekka, so this one here. You can see that if I just let the button go, if I just push L here and do nothing else, 17 will do the chin check. But you can actually make it so 17 will skip the chin check here, because this takes a long time to do. So if you, during the spin, during 17's spin, you can actually cancel into any Rekka action. So here, I'll cancel into 5L. So he does the gut punch immediately. You can do the sweep immediately. A fake overhead immediately. Overhead immediately. That immediately. You get the point. So this also applies to the heavy version of Backstep Rekka. So let's get some meter. So if you do heavy Backstep Rekka, you can immediately go into the punch. This is nice, because usually heavy Rekka will always track to the opponent and go behind them. So this is what it usually looks like. This forward, heavy Rekka. You'll always go behind them. And this is regular, heavy backstep Rekka. So if you let the Rekka go, 17 will go behind them. So you can do something a little cheeky here, where people, once they see the flash of this here, they'll probably start blocking behind them. But you can fake them out and just immediately go for a same side. It won't work too many times, but you can definitely catch someone off guard with this. And finally, to wrap up this little attribute section, I'll talk about the air forward Rekka specifically. So you can actually combo into this. You can combo into light version from any hit, but as you can see, 17 actually cannot combo the rest of the Rekka hits of light version by himself. So if I do here, you can see I hit the first hit, but they tech out before I can do the rest of the hits. If you're gonna combo with light version of air Rekka, you need to use an assist to pop them back up. So here's roll assist, then if you're a better player than me. You can combo off that. Same thing applies for medium Rekka. But medium Rekka, this air Rekka here, is actually pretty hard to do this mid-screen. As far as I know, you pretty much cannot without certain types of assists. So really good ones for this would be Team Gohan C and any other types of assists like Team Gohan C, where it puts them into the air and keeps them there for a little bit. So Janemba A, I think that's it actually. Janemba A, TNB actually probably works. So here I'll give an example. Here I'll try to combo off of this by myself. Nope, they took out. If we use Team Gohan C and keep them in the air for a little bit, like that. But despite that, 17, like the light version, cannot combo off of medium hit by himself. So here, whoops. Yeah, let's just go into the corner. In the corner, you can combo off of it with the key blasts by yourself. So I do that, but actually cannot combo after that without an assist. But it's not too bad since you can use this actually as a way to end your combo in a sliding knockdown. So that causes a sliding knockdown and starts your pressure from there. The heavy Rekka, air Rekka, is probably the one you're going to be using the most. It causes a sliding knockdown anywhere from screen, and you can combo into it anywhere from screen. So into key blasts, you can do that. And you saw there, it actually causes a ground bounce, which means 17 can combo off of it by himself. If you do something like this, and if you continue the Rekka after, keep pushing buttons, you can actually continue the combo. Okay, that was a lot to take in. So these next two sections will be pretty quick. First I'm going to talk about the barrier specifically. So I will talk about S barrier and then H barrier. S barrier, I honestly don't recommend you to ever use this unless you have a really good read. And that is because S barrier has more than 50 frames of end lag. You cannot do anything during this whole time. So if you get a bad read with the S barrier, they can drag and rush you there unless you put an assist behind it. And even then I don't recommend it because now you're just wasting your assist and now you've just reset it to neutral. Not really any point using S barrier, I don't think. Unless you have a really hard read that they're gonna hit you. And as you can notice here, unlike H barrier, which you can activate the blast no matter what, S barrier does not activate the blast ever unless the opponent hits you. So let's have Adult Gohan guard and then counter hit. See, there, now the barrier blast comes out. Well, if Adult Gohan does not hit me, then I'm just a Satan Duck. This barrier does not block supers, but it will block pretty much anything else besides command grabs and Dragon Rush. So projectiles, assists, their own hits, this will block everything else but grabs and supers. H barrier is much more useful than S barrier in my opinion, because of a number of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, is that you can activate Barrier Blast whenever you want with H barrier. It's really useful because, as I said earlier, most of 17's Rekka options are not safe on block, but you can actually use H barrier into Vanish for true Vanish, true jail into Vanish here, which is really nice to end your block string with. And also, H barrier blocks supers. So if you know somebody is going to, if you have a feeling someone's going to level 3 your Rekka, like so, you can, on reaction, even if you're doing another Rekka action, you can actually cancel your Rekka action into the barrier to block the super. So let's use overhead into barrier, because some people might see the overhead and they might try to super it level 1 or level 3 it. And you can barrier on reaction once you see the cinematic. So I'm mashing H here. Yep, and you can see 17 just completely negated the super and barrier blast him afterwards. You can also, you don't have to do the barrier blast, you can also just hold the button down and just block afterwards if you're not confident that the barrier blast will hit. This protection does not apply to command grab supers, by the way. So Trunks, Beerus, Andrew 16, and any other character with a command grab super, you cannot barrier your way out of that one. So I can do the overhead example again with Trunks. mashing H, I still get command grabbed. I can do this, I get command grabbed. This, preemptively have the barrier up, and I still get command grabbed. So the way to deal with this is just, like in every other character, you can just vanish when you see the cinematic. If you're bad, if you're good like me. Okay, there you go, see. Once you see the cinematic, you can vanish on reaction. Finally, we're at the last section of this video. I'm going to talk about some common usage tips. So first off, I already somewhat mentioned this earlier. When you stagger your moves, the frame data on this, which looks bad at first, the bad frame data, quote unquote bad frame data, actually lets you get pretty effective staggers. So again, use 5M instead of 5L when you're going to stagger because you get a medium starter. For the other ones, it doesn't really matter if you use L version or M version. It's going to do the same thing pretty much. This Rekka can be a pretty powerful neutral tool for 17. It's not just for block strings and combos. It has this anti-air property, so you can actually use it in a similar way that you'd use Cooler's gigantic 3H anti-air hitbox. So you probably run into this situation quite a bit this season, where a Gotenks player will walk around and then just spam EX hands from full screen and just come in at you. This is actually a air action, so 17, if you preemptive it, you can preemptively medium Rekka it from full screen. So let's have Gotenks do it, and then I can medium Rekka and it beats it cleanly. You can solve the blue circles and then you can start a full combo from there. It's pretty good counterplay against that, and if someone's super dashing like a maniac all the time coming at you, can very easily just do this on reaction, or just have the hitbox out already and just preemptively catch them. These last two tips concern comboing with the Rekka. So first I'll talk about the best assists to use with the Rekka. Ideally you'd want either pop-up assists or assists that keep someone in place. So something like Broly assist is really good for this. So you go into Parpless Charge, and you can very easily follow up from this. Something like DP assists, they're a little harder to use, but you just take a little bit of practice, and personally I prefer to just use Super Dash here. So then you can just Super Dash, and then you can use Air Rekka to continue your combo. Beams, you can do the same thing here. You can use this, then beam, and then Super Dash towards them, and then continue your combo with the EX Rekka. Finally, there are going to be times when you hit somebody in the air with the Rekka, but unless you delay your hits or use the correct order, the combo is going to drop. So if I have Gotenks into jumping here, if I hit him in the air, always matter, sometimes the combo will drop. So here, you saw it drop. So in order to fix this combo, when you see that you notice you've hit somebody like this, you have to either use the overhead first, like this, to bring them back down, and then you can continue mashing. Or you have to delay the next heavier string. You do this, then delay, and then keep going like from there. Like so. And that will be it for this Android 17 beginner guide to the Rekkas. If you have any questions or you think I left something out, please do not hesitate to ask me in the comments about it. I will respond. Thank you for watching.